In this episode, I talked to Darren Schmidt, who's the CEO and founder of the Nutritional Healing Center of Ann Arbor in Michigan, United States. It was actually because of one of Darren's videos that I first made the link between my teeth, my jaw, and the symptoms that I had across my whole body. And from working with different practitioners, including Darren as a long-distance patient, I've actually managed to regain my entire health. Most importantly, I've actually regained my life quality. In the interview, we talked also about a new blood test that is not even out yet and how Darren has discovered a new way to actually heal the pillars of that particular blood test. He has never talked about that before, so on this episode, it's going to be the first time that he's going to talk about it. He's also going to talk about a new vitamin that he has only come across a couple months ago and that has done miraculous things for his patients. I hope you're going to enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed having this conversation with Darren. As always, I appreciate if you share this, like this, and send it to all of your friends. Thank you. But yeah, man, it's good to see you again. It's been, I don't know even how long it's been that we work together as a long distance patients with you, but obviously your videos and your work has had a huge impact on my health journey. So thanks again for making the time to be on here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so maybe before we actually go in and I'll let you introduce yourself. I'm not, there's not an understatement when I say that watching one of your videos actually launched my entire healing journey. So I don't know if, I don't know if you remember, you did a video a couple years ago on root cause, the documentary,
Oh yeah.
and you talked about root canal teeth. And in my case, as you might maybe remember, I had the silent jawbone inflammation. And that really just introduced me to this whole world, and it's transformed my life from the get-go. And I must have watched every of your videos at one point. So again, huge impact there. But yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself? What are you doing? What hardcore holistic nutrition is? What you've been doing for the last almost 30 years, I believe, and how you're helping patients today.
So you just want me to tell you everything?
I mean, just give us the the 30K foot view sort of, and then we'll take it apart from there.
Yeah. So there's really exciting new information that I need to make some videos about this on YouTube. But so my career, I started studying nutrition in 1993 on my own, and that was in undergrad. And then went to chiropractic school, graduated in 97. And during chiropractic school, I wanted to focus on nutrition. I went to a few seminars. I went to a lot of seminars outside of school during that time. And there's one in particular by a guy named Dr. Joel Wallach. He wrote a book called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. And he gave a lecture, and I was inspired to be a chiropractor who focuses on nutrition. So I started the nutrition practice in 98. And I went low carb in 99 because of what I learned from the Weston A. Price Foundation. And then in 2005, I stopped taking insurance. So now I'm like totally cash based, free market, right? Like I need to get people well or else nobody's going to pay me money. But there's doctors that take insurance. They never get anybody better and they get insurance money. So the free market is, really way more ethical, to be honest. So the worst part of my career was moving into a Moldy office in 2004, 5. And I started getting symptoms in 2009, heart symptoms, high blood pressure, left arm numbness, shortness of breath. And in 2016, it got really bad. I got 4 EKGs that year, trying to figure out, like, I didn't know I was in a Moldy office. And it wasn't until October of 2016 when I discovered the Moldy part. And but that year, I was struggling with my health so badly, and I wasn't getting good information from like, I actually like to read old books, old nutrition and medical textbooks. And I read an article from 1959 about a mechanism of chronic disease called lactic acidosis. And I was like, this is it. This is what I have. I have this mechanism. And I knew it wasn't the cause. But once I started working with the mechanism from some supplements that were actually created in the 1930s, I started feeling better within a couple days, and it kept my head above water through the summer of 2016. And then in the fall of 2016, I found the mold. It's like, okay, great. Now I know the cause. I need to fix the cause. So I moved out of the office. a long story there, but I moved out, started detoxing my body, and I detoxed for 7 years. And I currently, my urine tests and my blood tests show very little mold in my body. Like I give it like a B plus, so pretty good. But this spring of 2024, all my symptoms came back. Dennis, you know this part? Did you see my latest videos about this?
I'm not sure. Maybe I might have missed that one.
Okay, so I didn't really post long form videos on YouTube all summer of 2024 because I was recovering from my symptoms coming back. So what happened was in July of 23, I accepted an invitation to speak in front of 175 medical doctors, and I was going to talk on the carnivore diet for 45 minutes. And then a vegan spoke for 45 minutes, talking about how meat is bad and plants are good. And then we debated for an hour. And I really wanted to do well on stage, which I did, but I studied my butt off from July of 23. And then the performance or the lecture was February of 24. So that was a lot of stress, and I fried my brain, right? I like to study, and you can fry your brain, especially if you're on the computer a lot. The other thing that happened was at the end of 22, I got Invisalign, and there was a tooth here that was forward, and it brought it back. But the point is, for 19 months, I couldn't chew food. My molars didn't contact. And if I closed my mouth, I could stick my tongue all the way through between both sides of my molars. The contact was only right here for 19 months. And when you can't chew your food, you can't get your nutrients. So combine the stress plus not able to chew food. And it really affected my walking. Like I was unstable. I was sucked at the gym. It was really bad. And I was, putting all this together. So then March of this year, 2024, I start getting high blood pressure again, shortness of breath, chest pain, left arm numbness. And in April, I had incredible stress related to finances, which is a throwback from the lockdown era. And I thought I had a stroke. My left arm went numb. My left leg went numb. My body temperature was 3 degrees too cold. And I went to bed at 8:30 at night. I never go to bed that early. And I'm like scared, like what the heck is happening? Heart's pounding. And then in May, one morning, my blood pressure was 139 over 102, crushing chest pain, 8 out of 10. And I've been on low carbs since 1999. It's not a blocked artery. And I've confirmed that over and over again. My lab tests are always normal. Cholesterol and ApoB and LDL. There's one factor that can be high, and that's lipoprotein A, but that's, alone, that's not a factor. And then I even, in this summer, I had carotid artery ultrasound that was normal, peripheral artery disease not found in my ankles. My arteries are in really good shape, but why did I have this crushing chest pain and shortness of breath? So May 18th, I walk into my local emergency room, and it's a small hospital. I could go to Ann Arbor, University of Michigan Hospital, which is this big leading research teaching hospital. But I go to this small hospital, and it's 11:45 on a Saturday morning, and they hook me up to all the cords, and I'm laying in bed, and they left me for an hour for lunch. They just left the room. They didn't say, see you later. We'll be back in an hour. We're going to lunch. They just took off. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm watching the monitor. All I could do, and my phone was in the chair on the other side of the room. I couldn't get up and go get it. So I'm watching my monitor. It's up here, and my respirations are like this: inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I had 5 to 8 seconds between respirations.
Huh.
And now I'm freaking out. Like, okay, wait, am I not breathing? Like if you hold your breath, doesn't that raise blood pressure? And I'm freaking out, and I'm like, okay, I just have to relax. I'm here all alone in the ER. I got to relax. So then I fell asleep. And then the monitor starts beeping, and it wakes me up, and it's flashing red, and it says apnea 20 seconds. So I didn't breathe for 20 seconds.
Jesus.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not breathing at night when I'm sleeping. I think I'm not breathing in the office during the day. Maybe I should just start breathing. So I start inhaling and exhaling, And it was effort. There was effort there. And the blood pressure cuff would go off about every 10 minutes. So for the next 20 minutes, I'm breathing, and my top number, being like 138 or so, it dropped 18 points in 20 minutes. I got my blood pressure to normal just by breathing like that. So I'm like, okay, great. I know how to fix it. And then they came in. They came back from lunch, and they said, "Hey, look, the monitor shows apnea. Doesn't that cause high blood pressure?" And the guy goes, "Oh, it just means that the contact fell off or the pad came off your skin. It's usually a bad reading." And I'm thinking, no, no, no. I think I don't breathe. So, anyways, I agreed to do a CT scan of my brain, and they're looking for a stroke, and there was nothing there. They did blood tests, nothing there, and they discharged me after 5 hours, and it cost me $10,000. I don't have health insurance, and that was with the
Whoa.
25% cash, reduction. But so they discharged me, and they said, "We don't know what it is," and I'm like, "It said apnea on the monitor." And she goes, "Well, just go get a sleep study." And I thought to myself, I didn't say it, but I thought, I'm not going to do that. I know how to fix apnea. I've been fixing apnea for 15 years.
Wow.
So I go up to my office and I start apnea supplements. And for the next week, I'm a little bit better. And I'm doing breathing exercises. I get apps on the phone, like breathing apps and stuff. And I'm sitting in front of the window trying to get in some fresh air. And it was still very much a struggle. And a week goes by, and I'm talking with a patient, and she's on a program. I forgot what her symptoms were, but she's doing better on her program. And she says to me, "Oh, by the way, I've been taking high doses of synthetic B1 for 4 months, and all of my neuropathy is gone. And I'm very happy about that." And I was like, wait a minute. I have neuropathy in my left hand arm and left
Mm.
leg. Maybe I need high doses of B1. So I do muscle testing, as a biofeedback analysis. And I tested for B1, benfotiamine, which is a version of B1. There's many versions of it. And within 1 hour, I was breathing so much easier. And I knew, like, this is it. This is the solution to my problems. And within a week, I was 60% better. 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, blood pressure normal, chest pain gone, shortness of breath gone, apnea gone. 2 weeks. And then the numbness, the peripheral neuropathy, like hand, left foot, it's been 4 months now, and I'm like 95% better. I'll go all day and not notice it. Maybe at night when I'm laying in bed, I'll notice it. But there used to be a time when my left hand was super white, and this is normal color, right? Like loss of circulation to the hand and to the foot. So we've put over 200 patients on B1 now since May 28th. It's been the single greatest supplement I've ever worked with. And what's also great about this is it fixes lactic acidosis, which I figured out in 2016 because of the mold. So lactic acidosis being a mechanism of chronic disease. So here's what this is. So here we have waste. This is a W for waste or toxins, infections, heavy metals, chemicals, all the poisons in our bodies that we get from our environment and our food. So you want to bring this down. And then here we have O for oxygen. And we want to raise this up. So when you have too much waste and not enough oxygen, your blood is dirty and hypoxic. Your cells become dirty and hypoxic. They starve. They die. And then cells die, tissues die, organs die, the body dies. That's the mechanism. And there's more to it physiologically. But this mechanism is caused by heavy metals, chemicals, toxins, and then chronic infections, which could be parasites, Lyme disease, bacteria, virus, mold, fungus, candida, viruses. So you want to clean out all those toxins and all those infections and increase the B1 and whatever other nutrients you need. Now, the B1 is so important for the mitochondria. And in the mitochondria, there's 21 other nutrients that are really important. That includes some minerals, magnesium, sulfur, selenium. Let's not forget about iron. A lot of people are deficient in iron.
I got
And,
IVs for that. Actually, really fixed me up last year when I had chronic reflux. Made a big
okay.
difference. Yeah.
And then B12, these are not only a lot of these are tested by MDs, et cetera, but not B1. It's not really well known. But B1 is in charge of 5 reactions in the mitochondria, including step 1, which is to bring the fuel into the mitochondria and to convert that. It goes from one chemical to another as it transfers into the mitochondria. So having said that, B1 is also the most important nutrient for the nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system, which is, controlling fight or flight or rest and repair, that's centered here at the brainstem and also in the skin. It's everywhere. It controls everything. So when B1 is supplied and it starts feeding the brainstem, then heart palpitations go away and digestive problems go away, breathing gets better. And another thing about B1 is it transfers oxygen from the blood to the cells. And so you can do like a oxygen saturation test, which little device you put on your finger. It could be at 98, which is really, really good. But that doesn't mean that the oxygen is getting transferred out of the blood into the cells.
Mhm.
So it does all these amazing things. And so here's your waste, here's your oxygen. B1 shoots up oxygen better than any other nutrient. And then in the meantime, drop down the toxins and get rid of the parasites, etc. And then you got your health back. And this was known to some degree, we're talking 1929. And Dr. Otto Warburg figured out B1. At the time, it had different name. They didn't call it vitamin B1 in 1929. But Dr. Otto Warburg got the Nobel Prize in 1931 for his research on how B1 gets oxygen transferred from the blood to the cells. So keep everything I said in that, like nobody talks the way that I talk, right? I've actually been accused of people online saying that I make stuff up.
Mm.
And it's like, that's funny. I just read books. Like there's a whole look at those old books. Those are old. That shelf. I got 5 books between 1931 and 1944 describing B1. And then there's new books with the same information, right? More, more elaborate, more details, more research, but it's basically the same information. But so then earlier this year, there was a video that came out on YouTube, and the channel is Dave Feldman, and he's like an incredible cholesterol researcher. He's actually a software engineer. And on his channel, there's a video that came out with a picture of a guy named Dr. Bill Cromwell on the thumbnail. And the title is MVX the New Frontier in Medical Testing, or is MVX the New Frontier in Health, or something like that. So what is MVX? This is the greatest video on YouTube, and I've watched it probably 7 times. MVX stands for Metabolic Vulnerability Index. It's a blood test with 6 factors. And these 6 factors, when you test them, and what they do is they give you a score between 0 to 100. And if your score is very low, like 5, you're going to live a long time. If your score is very high, let's say 70, you're not going to live a long time. And they've run this on tens of thousands of people. And it's the most scientific way to test your longevity. Now, in the past, people have said the way you test longevity is your muscle strength. How many push-ups can you do? Grip strength. Are you fat? Are you a smoker? Male, female, there's a difference there. Age, telomere length, there's different lab tests and stuff. VO2 max, your lung capacity, fitness level. None of that. The truth is, none of that is a good indicator of how long you're going to live. It's MVX. And so, did I mention LDL cholesterol and ApoB specifically? Like, cardiologists love to say, get your LDL down, therefore get your ApoB down, and you'll live longer. That's not a true statement. When you look at MVX, it'll be true. It's true for 2023. But now that it's 2024 and into the future, we know that MVX is a greater measurement of how long you're going to live. Okay. So wouldn't it be great if we could figure out how to reduce or to mitigate the damage of these 6 factors? And the answer is, I figured it out about 3 weeks ago. how to fix MVX. These 6 factors are all fixable, and 3 of them are directly related to how much B1 you have in your body. It's in the medical research. There's studies already done on this. And the other 3 factors have to do with, number 1, go on a low-carb keto diet. Another one is reduce all the toxins. And the last one is reduce all the infections. So these 6 factors are this basically sum up my career. And in my career, I've created the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. So here's my book. It just came out a few months ago. It's on Kindle. And I can show you the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. I don't have it bookmarked. But there it is. So much so. So right there, on my website, I have it in color.
Yeah, included.
But those 7 steps line up exactly with the 6 factors of MVX. Not too many, not too few. It's exactly they line up exactly. So it's like and so Dr. Bill Cromwell, who's gave this lecture on this video, he's been in practice as a lipidologist since 1988. And so back then people would come to him and say, hey, look, my LDL is very high. I don't want to die. What do I do? And in his career, he figured out, well, LDL is not a good marker to determine if you're going to die or not, because some people need high LDL because they have cancer or they have a chronic infection or because it's their genetics, and that's totally fine. So LDL is not a good marker. But he figured out how to test for longevity and through MVX. And then in my career, parallel to his, I figured out how to solve it. So I have not made a video about this yet.
Well,
This
you
is the
should.
first time this is the first time I'm saying this in public.
I have an important question. So I think there's so much to unpack that you just mentioned. First of all, I'm glad that you're, better and that you're also so candid about publishing this. How do you avoid, or how do you ensure that you stay intellectually honest in the sense of, now you've made this one discovery, right? How do you make sure that this is not sort of like a recency bias where now every patient that walks in the door, you immediately assume or prescribe, okay, like you might be down in B1 potentially? Because I work with some
Right.
doctors where I felt like, whatever was the latest thing they came across, which is exciting, which is cool, that kind of became a thing for the time being. So how do you find that balance there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Recency balance. And I'm absolutely 100% guilty of recency balance my whole career. And so when I learned about iodine, I put a lot of people on iodine, right? And when I learned about, vitamin D 20 years ago, I put a lot of people on vitamin D. And then I just watched the results. And so when you put people on high vitamin D doses and their D level goes up, does it increase their energy? Does it make them feel better? No. When you put people in iodine in high dose, does it make them feel better? Increase the energy? Yeah. Like I'm looking for what are the changes? What happens? So I still recommend D. I still recommend iodine. But then I look at the patient like, okay, you got these things going on. Like when I figured out parasites, I put a lot of people on parasite supplements. And it was like at the time the greatest thing ever. And it's still a true statement. And like in 2007, when I started getting patients pooping out parasites, it was an amazing thing. And I still get that happening all the time. So like all
You've
these
shared
things.
photos on YouTube, right, of where people brought you the
Yeah,
parasites sometimes, and
yeah,
you said like,
exactly.
please
Yeah,
stop bringing them in.
right. So with B1, I put a lot of people on B1 and I just look at the results. And some people, I would say probably less than 10 people have said to me, no change. It's very sad for me that some people have no improvement with B1 out of like the 200, right? Maybe I'm biased on those numbers. But the point is, in the last 4 months, when I put people on B1, if there's no change, what am I missing? I'm missing their parasites. I'm missing their toxins. I'm missing EMFs. It's all these other things that I've learned in my career, right? So it's this big picture. Again, it's all summed up in the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. And B1 is in step 2 of the 7 steps. So yeah, recency. I've never even heard of the term recency bias, but totally
Yeah,
guilty.
no,
But
it's
then,
fine.
but then you
It's
move
just,
on, right? Then you learn
yeah,
more and you put it all together. You get rid of the stuff that doesn't work. You keep the stuff that does work. Yeah.
no, I agree. I think what I'd be curious about, because you mentioned the books that you've been reading, and I've always been fascinated by that. Why do you think it is that these guys some of them 100 years ago, 50 years ago, they found these things out. And if you look at the health system today, how broken it is, even though we have much more access to information, maybe that's actually the answer to it. But why do you think these guys back in those days figured these things actually out?
Why did they figure it out back in those days? Okay, number one, I think they're more ethical back then. Number two, the LDL scare beginning in the 1950s destroyed all of medicine. And when you look at, if you're measuring LDL and you say, okay, you're going to die soon because your LDL is high, therefore eat no meat, avoid fat, right? And that it's just permeated all of the USDA dietary guidelines. It permeated every single medical specialty. So that's why everybody's so much more overweight, because they're on a high carb diet. And then a high carb diet, this is the killer right here. A high carb diet accelerates MVX. Okay, so it destroys your liver and the 6 factors. It destroys your B1 status. It prevents your immune system from working well, so you get more infections. So I really think it's the one factor of LDL being a scary thing. And so doctors over and over again saying, well, meat is bad. Eat, I know doctors online saying sugar is fine. Seed oils are better than meat. And it's basically you end up eating junk food and convenience food, right? You don't eat meat, so therefore you're not satisfied. You end up eating 5 times a day, 10 times a day. You're snacking all day. So that's the biggest factor. And they keep pushing the anti-meat propaganda. But once you start measuring MVX, which it's not available yet to the citizens of the world. And I've talked to literally 6 labs so far. I've talked to the NIH, LabCorp, etc., and nobody's willing to run it because they're waiting for consensus. And the problem is it doesn't measure disease. They're not used to not measuring disease. So I don't know. It's ethics and it's fear and there's a bit of socialism, communism in there. Like we should be in the free market. Like I should be able to order from a lab, an independent lab, MVX. But they're just waiting for consensus. I don't know what that means. I don't know who would be the person to say, yeah, let's run MVX. So I'm talking to people. I'm talking to more and more labs. I'm reaching out to see if we can get this run on people.
One of the really interesting things that you talk a lot about, and I think, again, you kind of gave it away already a little bit, is that diet itself is also not going to fix it. You caught these, I don't know if you caught these unfortunate, unlucky exposures, you called them. You already mentioned the parasites, the Lyme, the heavy metals. So walk us through, like when a patient walks in the door and, long distance in person, in your case, how do you approach that? Like where do you start? How do you work with these folks? And then how do you figure out where do they currently stand? And you've already touched on, you talk about the mechanisms and then of course the causes, but you also have, I believe, like a unique approach to how you do this. So what's kind of like the journey where you get someone from, you have all these incredible stories from feeling like absolute crap to slowly but surely getting better.
Right. So the currently in my practice, I'm at the stage where people have seen a lot of my YouTube videos, so they tried a variety of diets and they land on the diet that makes them feel the best. So for some people, it's not a keto diet or or even a low carb diet because they have so many unlucky exposures in their body, so parasites, toxins, etc. So I ask them, it's all in the history. So I ask them, how's your diet? And they tell me. And so I might make some suggestions there, or really sometimes I'll push people really hard to get into ketosis, but everybody's different. And then I'm thinking, okay, what kind of toxins do you have in your body and what kind of organisms do you have hiding out in your body? And where do we start from there? So at the beginning, I'm usually tackling intestinal cleaning right away. I'm usually giving them supplements that clean their intestines, including parasites, and then drainage. So I got to make sure that their liver, kidneys, lymphatic system are working really well. And again, I mentioned that I use muscle testing, which is a biofeedback technique to analyze how the body's functioning. And of course, we run lab tests and stuff like that. But a lot of it has to do with they start taking supplements and then we monitor their reaction. So if they take some supplements and there's no change, then we change up the supplement program. But if we give them supplements and there is a change, then we know we're on the right track and something good's going to happen. Although they could, roller coaster with their symptoms initially. So So I'm thinking in all different terms and pathways of where to go and what to do next. But I'm following the 7-step blueprint to optimal health.
Mm.
That's the groundwork.
You've talked about ethics earlier in a different answer, and you've talked about the free market, and I'm mostly with you on that. At the same time, again, also staying intellectually honest. I'd be curious where you stand on when you talk about supplements in particular. You might be aware, you might agree with that, that obviously there is a lot of practices also, basically becoming resellers and really having, of course, a commercial agenda behind it. But sometimes it might actually also get out of hand, and the commercial aspect is more important than actually what's yet necessary for the patient. What are your thoughts on that? Where we also have to be, self-critical, going against the other thing where we say, this is also not going in the right direction here.
Right. So my practice is half services, like service charges, and the other half is supplements. So I do have a commercial interest in selling supplements, but again, if I don't get patients well, they're not going to come back.
Hmm.
Right. So I need to get the highest quality supplements on the market, and I'm always looking for the best supplements. And I currently carry about 800 different products, and I have my current maybe 30 to 50 favorites, right, that I use all the time because they work so well.
Hmm.
And people, they come in and they get better. So now let me just talk about the general concept of like supplements, the supplemental industry. In my 30 years, I've seen the quality of the supplements improve dramatically. And that includes body care products too. I mean, there was a time when all toothpaste was horrible and all underarm deodorant was horrible, but it's like every year all these products get better and better and better and more available, and quite frankly even more affordable, and and like at more and more stores, and of course on Amazon. So and even the supplements, even the multi-level marketing supplements are improving in their quality. So there was a time when they were just garbage, just crap, and it was a little bit embarrassing, but now that's the free market, always improving, right? You have
Hmm.
to improve in the free market. Whereas if you have what I call, I think health insurance is socialism by proxy, and there's a control over medicine by pharma through the medical licensing and the education. They can still give you sulfa drugs from the 1940s, right? And their philosophy never changes. Their philosophy is let's pump out the next drug, and in the meantime, there's more and more antibiotic resistance, and there's more and more disease, and people are getting fatter and more unhealthy, and the heart, people are surviving heart attacks better, but the prevalence of heart attacks, heart disease is going up. So, but medicine, do they really care about improving health? No, absolutely not. There's not a concern about improving health. That's not what they're paid for. They're paid to treat your disease. And that's why they don't want to run MVX, because with MVX, you're measuring your health. And they're not used to that. They're used to measuring disease and treating symptoms. It's very inflammatory what I'm saying, but it's absolutely 100% true. Sorry. For
No,
all those
don't worry.
people who are cringing right now, I apologize, but that's the way it is. So get over it.
That's fine. I mean, fair question though. How careful do you have to be at times? Because I do know also certain doctors that have certain opinions, and you kind of got to watch out what you say, where, and when. How do you feel about that for yourself?
Oh, that's a great point. You have such great questions. So, we have to maintain the concept that there is a need for medicine and drugs and surgery when it's needed. So if somebody's eating a bad diet and they choose to eat a bad diet and they get a blockage in their arteries, then they need a stent. And there's no supplements that are superior to a chosen bad diet. You know what I'm saying? So like if you live in a part of the planet where there's very little food, and your food choices are very limited and very unhealthy, then yeah, you might need some drugs and surgery more than somebody that has a better opportunity for better food. So yeah, I can bash medical doctors all day, just like they can bash me all day, and we go back and forth online all the time. But we really have two separate populations of patients.
Hmm.
So their patients are very, very sick and with acute problems, and my patients are sick with chronic problems. And my patients also include very healthy people. So that's always like the biggest factor when I'm like engaging with people online. It's like, remember the different populations of patients. We have acutely sick, which is which, emergency medicine and medical doctors are great at that. And that's their expertise, and they should stick with that. And then I'm going to stick with chronic health improvement and healthy lifestyle choices. And it's really separate industries.
Mm.
And medicine is so good at emergency medicine that they make TV shows and movies about that. There's no TV shows and movies about, choosing to eat healthy food, right? It's not like super engaging and intriguing. So let's just keep that in mind.
What I've always appreciated about you, Darren, is actually that you just said it. Like, you're very open and like, you have the courage to also be wrong. I guess like you put yourself out there constantly. It almost feels like once you've been in the cold water and it warmed up a bit, it's almost like, okay, like let me get into the next cold water and kind of see and figure this out, kind of on behalf for my patients. What I find, there's other people also on YouTube. This guy called, I forgot his name, Paul Saladino. He did a pod the other day with a guy called Thomas Delure. I don't know if you know him. He's a
Yeah, I
fitness
know about
influencer.
that. Yeah.
And they talked about like what have they changed their mind on. In their case, they talked about fasting and that you don't need necessarily fasting to reach autophagy. Was just an example. But I'm curious, what is something that you've changed your mind on over the last years that you maybe didn't think that you would ever change your mind on that?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so I think I'm such a big fan of low carb and keto. I still think people need to achieve ketosis a few times a year, at least 4 times a year, for a day or two. And that's been a true statement for me for more than 10 years, probably 12 years. But I think that there are some people that they're so ill with infections and toxins that keto is very hard for them to achieve. Like their mitochondria just don't work very well. So I don't push keto like I used to so hard on some patients. But there are people, even now, I got people that I'm like, your first job is to get into ketosis and measure that in your blood. So I've changed. I'm more leaning on that. Um, and as far as I don't know if of anything else that I can think of. Um, I don't know. I'm pretty good at like just dumping supplements that don't work.
Mm.
So, like I promoted. I have a smartwatch. This is a Garmin smartwatch, and there's a time when I was promoting another watch that took blood pressure and glucose, and it was wrong. So I quit promoting that. So and I made a video about that, and some people were very upset because they ended up buying the watch. It didn't work. I don't know. I don't have really, really good examples for you. I'm sorry.
I think it's a pretty good answer. Again, I feel like it, because to me, if you think of it, and I think, again, I might have told you I work in sales in the technology industry, and it's the same thing as like, I think people, when they buy from you, they appreciate that when you're open and transparent with them, and, you might have good intentions, maybe get it wrong, but I think that makes all the difference. And that's what I've always enjoyed in your content a lot. Just talk a little bit about the supplements. Do you have a number of favorites or almost like must-haves that people should definitely have in their, in their counter in their kitchen?
Well, it's about the 7 steps. So as you go through the 7 steps, there's a variety of supplements at each step. And some people need to do, let's say, step 4 for 2 years. Other people need to do it for 6 weeks. And then you move on to the next step, basically. So it's more about the program and not so much about pills.
Mhm.
Having said that, my favorite supplement for people to take is B1. And that'll be a true statement for the rest of my life. It'll be B1. And let's say you're very healthy and you're active and you're working out and you have a job and you're using a brain a lot. Then 250 milligrams of thiamine hydrochloride, like the B1 salt, per day,
Mhm.
250. That's the minimum for anybody using their brain and body more than a caveman.
250 milligrams a day
Yep.
of B1.
Yep. And then to expand on that, any other supplements that are really good for mitochondria. And so, if you need iron, take iron. Magnesium is really important for B1 utilization. And Dr. Peter Tia and other people talk about that. They're such fans of B1 because I'm sorry, such fans of magnesium because it's all over the literature, the
Mhm.
medical literature. But B1 is not all over the medical literature like magnesium is. And that's because in the 1930s, medicine thought that they were done promoting B1 because they put it in white bread and it saved people's lives. within a few weeks, people's heart disease went away because they put B1 in bread. So they're like,
Wow.
good, we're done. Let's move on. But we need to get back to B1 again.
Wow. Incredible. I'm also mindful of the time, so I want to get in before we wrap up. Also, how can people work with you? Because as you know, you have your practice in Michigan, right, in Ann Arbor. But at
Right.
the same time, I mean, I was a long distance patient. So how can people find you, connect with you, and work with you in particular?
Right. So I have an office in Ann Arbor. We have currently 4 other nutrition practitioners, and we have a few more in line to be hired. And we do long distance consulting. And if people who are local, they come into the office. And sometimes we have people fly in, even from Europe or wherever, Australia, New Zealand. They fly in for, let's say, a few days, and they fly back home. Then we do follow ups. So, of course, I have all my YouTube videos, and I have several courses and ebooks. Some are free, some are paid. They're on my website. And currently, I am not taking new patients currently, but I will start back up in March of 2025.
Mhm.
So I'm taking a short break there for that. So yeah, we're open. We're taking on new patients.
Got it. Cool. I'm also gonna make sure to tag your YouTube channel because I think that again that for me just became I wouldn't say a single source of truth, but it was really, and also on your Twitter, I have to say it's I'll link the handles. Before we actually final question, can you share just some anecdotal crazy stories? I mean, you have them all over your videos, but for people that have not watched them yet, where people came in with the worst conditions, worst suffering, and you help them get back on track. Do you have like cherry pick? I don't know, 1, 2, 3.
I mean, so every week I have a staff meeting and we share success stories every week. And what comes to mind? One of the craziest, worst stories. Man, you asked too fast. Crazy worst stories. We have to cut. You have to. I got to think about this. We have to cut that out. We got to edit this part out where I'm thinking. Okay. Well, so every year I get new crazy stories, and it's based on whatever new supplement has come out or new program that I start to implement. So, 8 years ago, I had crazy parasite stories. And then when I started incorporating iodine 15 years ago, I had crazy iodine stories. And now let's talk about B1. So I have several patients. One guy, we've done everything correctly. He's got no infections in his mouth, in his jawbone, and his diet is low carb. He's diabetic. He's been diabetic from a junk food diet for many years. But when he got into ketosis, it did not lower his blood glucose. And so I put him on B1, and now his blood glucose is down 30 points in 10 weeks. That is the
Wow.
only factor. That's crazy because B1 fixes all these issues that make the mitochondria work better. And there's so much more to it. But I got a woman currently, she started B1, her blood pressure dropped, her glucose dropped, her digestive system's better, constipation's better, anxiety's better, all from B1, right?
Wow.
So all these things, I'm creating a PowerPoint presentation because I have several lectures coming up in the next year. And I got right now, I think it's 76 symptoms of B1 deficiency. It's like all these symptoms from head to toe. So I don't know. It may not seem so crazy and wild to say, "Oh, take this supplement, and your blood glucose gets better." Like it doesn't sound wild, but it's wild because we know how it works. We know what it's doing inside the body, and we know the extent of what all these other things. Oh, I got a patient now. She's actually a staff member. She's deaf. She's legitimately legally deaf, and I put her on B1 at the end of May. She's been to the optometrist 6 times because her vision is improving, and they've changed the prescription on her contact lenses 6 times in 4
Are you
months.
serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like how great is that, right? She relies on she reads your lips while you're talking, and her vision's, and her optometrist is seeing her for free because the changes are coming by so fast. It's
Wow.
amazing.
I'm just curious about the B1 here because I'm just looking at this right now because I have a vitamin B complex solution, which I think supposedly has all the B vitamins in there. But I'm just curious if that actually has. It seems like 250 is almost considered like a high dosage compared to like the standard supplements that you get, right? Or is
Right.
that
The USDA is 1.1 milligrams per day. So when you take 250, that's a lot more. But I've been taking 750 milligrams for 4 months of not even the B1 salt. I've been taking benfotiamine and TTFD. Those are two other versions made in Japan in the 60s to try to get the B1 into the brain and into the cells. So those two versions are fat soluble. And there's no
wow?
upper limit on any of these B1 supplements. There's no too much or toxic level. You can take a lot. You can take 7,000 milligrams of B1 salt and it's totally fine.
I guess you just pee out whatever you don't need, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Darren, we're up with time. Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much more to unpack, but I'm really glad that you made the time and updated all of us on what you've been doing. And I'm glad that you're better above all
Thank you.
else. And again, I feel like this is fascinating thing with you where you kind of like this lat rap for yourself, almost
Uh,
you figure these. I mean, now I'm saying this in a good way that you have these experiences and then all your patients benefit from it. I certainly have benefited a lot, and I think I mean you have what 175K followers at this point on YouTube, I
yeah.
believe. So
Yeah. On YouTube.
you helping a lot of people out there, and yeah, thank you so much, and yeah,
Thanks, Dennis.
keep doing what you're doing, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. And you had great questions. I really enjoyed this interview. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.